we're here today doing a follow-up interview. This is Athena with Gaia Warriors, and I'm with Tony Franquito.
Hello.
And I'm very excited to go more into some of these empowering documents that have been really done at a huge, huge risk by our forefathers and ancestors. And I think that Tony here is gonna tell us about this in depth so that we can, as a people, know the law, know the word, because the power of the pen is very important. And if we know these, then this is something that we can use moving forward to stand with conviction, to stand in this unwavering truth of what this country was founded on. So I'll turn it over to you, Tony.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tess. Hey, everybody. Tony Franquito here, out here in Nevada County, California. And what I wanted to cover today is really some of the founding documents that our forefathers put in place. And it's really the law of this country. And really, it gives us the power of this country. It gives us why America is great. These are it. So there's two documents I specifically want to speak to, and I'll show you pieces of that, because what I'm going to do is lead up to something here, and I'll get to that in a moment. So we're going to go through these. The two most powerful documents for you to grasp is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution for the United States of America, 1787. That's the organic Constitution, so to speak. I'm not going to go too much into detail with that just yet. But I want people to comprehend what it means. And really what these mean are, I'll just start with the reason that, that I connect with Tess here is because we talk about spirituality. We talk about, one with the earth, one with everything, one with living being, and raising our vibration to be one with that. Okay, so we really want to be able to have that as I speak to Tess here, and bring that forth. And this is nothing new. This is what our forefathers did, and this is what they put down on paper, and gave us that law in a written word to be able to bring it forth. I'm going to show you that here in writing, which will empower you. The whole objective is to empower you with knowledge at this particular point. Okay, I want to give you the knowledge so that you know where to go to, and then hopefully we're going to give you some ways that you can actually start to implement this power. And I'm going to show you some things as we go along. So let's start with the spirituality aspect of it, where this comes from. Excuse me just a sec.
I'm glad that you're starting with the spiritual, because I feel like we are first and foremost spiritual beings having a human experience, and so it's very important to talk about both, the spiritual, the soul, and then the physical matter of us being humans. So I'm really glad that you're covering both. It's very important, and I see it missing. The spiritual people aren't really talking about the physical stuff, and the physical 3D people aren't talking about the
and how do we tie that together? We are. The question comes down. Are you a soul or do you have a soul? Well, we are a soul, period, right? And that's what you just said. In other terms, we're a soul first, and then we're in this physical body, and we're bringing that forward. And so really, quite literally, at this particular point in time, we are in a spiritual war. It is the living soul against these dead entities, if we want to say against or not, but and it quite literally is the dead, the corpse oration speaking, the corpse orating. So the dead and the living soul. I don't want to get too far off track there on that topic, so I know you've got something to say about that, but let's stick on point here. So what our forefathers did, they knew this was going on. It was a spiritual battle, and they put it for us right here in the Declaration of Independence. So what is the Declaration of Independence, and why is it so important? This is really, really important. Now, the Declaration of Independence, the declaration means to declare, and that means to lay down the law. This is very important, because we in America, we are able to lay down, we move by declaration, proclamations, writs. We move forward because we are the kings here. We are the kings and queens on this land, and I'll tell you, we are the people, and this is how we move. So the Declaration of Independence is very important because it lays down the law. And in order to lay down the law for the country, what you've got to do is declare what your moral values are, and the moral integrity, the laws of the nation.
So who are these people that wrote this?
Well, they're the forefathers, and there were 56 of them that signed this as moving forward, and they paid a heavy price.
And what price was that?
So some of them were literally murdered. Their houses and farms were taken, burned down. Wives were raped and murdered, and their children raped and murdered. This is.
And who were these? You say they were the forefathers. What does that even mean?
Stand corrected here. This would be the founding fathers of this nation. Now, were they a lawyer, bar attorney, all this stuff? No, they were men, people, men and women. Mankind, just like us. Now, back in those days, those people were really well read and educated, meaning that they knew how the language better than we know today. They dumbed us down quite a bit. So they were just people who read. By the time I saw a test for somebody who's in the fourth grade, and there's no way I could pass that test. There was a question on there, what's the proper use of capitalization in our language? I think I could answer one, as a title. And that's only the first letter of the word. It's not all capitalized for the whole word, because it's not even a word. So, how did I know that? I didn't learn that until just recently, in the past few years.
So they wrote this document, and then this document somehow became something that was shared with the whole nation, right? And then it was something that stuck because people resonated with it and gave it support.
Well, it's a declaration. It's laying down the law per the law of nations. There was a law of nations that were out by, and that we needed to declare what that was. And and that's what's so important about this declaration, is it goes through why we were doing it. Actually, there's a document before this. It's called the Leeds Resolution. And they came to resolve that they were separate from the king. They needed to separate themselves from the monarchy after repeated injuries, going into the courts, here's what I've got, here's the document. Oh, we're just going to throw it and dismiss it off to the side. Oh, we're going to take your house anyway, even though you're right. Oh, we're not going to admit this evidence into the court. We're going to, we're going to sell your farm, take your house, your dog, your car, your horse and buggy. Oh, and we're going to throw you in jail. For what?
So it was a form of dictatorship back in 1776.
1776, and that's exactly what we have right now. 1776 reloaded all over again. We go into these courthouses, and that's what they're doing. They're doing these things to us right now. They're taking people's homes, foreclosing on them, moving forward. We have, they're just going, and then they're taking family, think this creature called the family
away.
Court. Yeah, and they're empowering the CPS. They're, where do they get their power? Well, the court said so. We have a warrant. We're going to come in and take your kids. Oh, we have the right to foreclose. We're going to give that right to the sheriff, and we're going to come in and take your house, and all of these things. Where are they getting that power from? All from the court, from the judges. Where are the Board of Supervisors getting their power from? The council, right? And then don't worry, we're protected because we're in the court system. We're going to go to the court, and we don't have to worry about it because they're going to cite for us, right? They're going to be on our side. And this is really what it's down to right now. And that's what I want to cover today, is these courts, and they're run by the bar, the British Accredited Registry that brings this forth. Very powerful. So where is our power lie? So again, just to repeat and reiterate what we just said, in 1776, this is what our founding fathers were encountering, because they go to the king's court. All the judges were appointed by the king. Now, in our form of government, a republic, we're a republic first. And then what we do is we had appointed judges or take the oath to protect our rights from trespass. Okay, so we weaken them. So if they step on our rights, we're supposed to bring forth our power here. And I'm going to go over this, and I'll give you an example as well. So just give me a sec here. So back to the Declaration of Independence, because we're laying down the law. So it says, and to assume among the powers of the earth. So they're more than just powers of the earth, among, The powers of the earth were going to assume these powers. And separate and equal station, to which the laws of nature and nature's God. Laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. This is very important because these are the laws of this country. The laws of this country are the laws of nature and nature's God. That's it. When somebody says, well, you're breaking the law, define the law. What's the law? This is the law. This is the law of this country. Period. So what does that mean? So when we look at laws of nature, you say, well, what's the law of nature? Well, I'm going to hold my pen up, right, and I'm going to drop it. I'm going to let go. It's going to go. I didn't drop it. I just let go, and it hit the table, right? That's a law of nature. That's called a maxim of law. It is. That's just a maxim of law. It's going to do it. So that's how maxims of law come, because they're a law of nature. You can't dispute it. 2 + 2 is 4. Boom. Period. Done. It's an indisputable principle. Okay, so that's where we get into maxims, which comes into this as well. And what's the law of nature? A law of nature is, like we were talking a little earlier. If there's a bear in the woods and they have a cub bear there, mama bear is there with the cub, and a mountain lion comes over and attacks that cub, well, mama bear is going to go over there and tear up that mountain lion, right? And it has every right to do so. That's the law of nature, the same thing that we have. Now, whether it's my brother or my uncle or my cousin or my best friend, I'm still going to stand, right? Because it's a law of nature. It's part of my family. So I'm going to stand up and do that. So that gives you the laws of nature. Then you have of nature's God. And when you start looking into this, it becomes the divine creator of all creation. So God, Almighty God, and the Almighty Creator. So we're all one. There's no separation. We're all of the same sort. We're all of the same energy and the same life force moving forward. So it's very important that we come from this love vibration, this higher vibration, that we're all one. I mean, I've traveled all over America, a little bit in Mexico and Canada, and what I find people who are genuine, authentic. They want the best for everybody. There are very few people out there who have a lot of malice, intent. There are some, but not many. And
they just happen to mostly be in power at this stage of our evolution.
Right now, yeah, they have. This is quite literally a spiritual war. When we start looking at really what's going on the planet, you're talking about a corporation, which is the dead speaking, which is the evil, the Luciferian type aspect. So we see that moving forward. Then we see the living soul, which is defined in the Bible as God's creation, and that moving forward. So you got the living versus the dead right now, and everything's inverted. The dead are at the top. So we're starting to invert that. Do all the people in these offices know that? Our government know that? No, maybe not. But let's continue here with the actual law that we have here. So looking at this, it states right here in the laws of this nation, in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Men meaning mankind. It says mankind, men. That includes women, because we are mankind. We're not human. Okay, are created equal. We're all created equal. It defines it right here. If I walk into an area, a court, or somebody says, well, we need to have, equal rights. Well, we already do. It's defined right here. We all are endowed by our Creator to be equal, and that we are endowed by their Creator, our Creator, that certain unalienable rights. Certain means absolute. Unalienable rights or unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we have everything here. Anything that trespasses on that is not right. Now, what did we do? Well, if we were married, we're not us, right? We're not seeing each other. But if we were married, right, and we had children, then we would look to build our homestead. Build a house. I want to take care of the plants, the animals, whatever we're doing. to be, and maybe we want to give back to the community, we want to teach people how to farm. So we're focused on that, right? So what we said was, well, let's create an entity to protect our rights so we can do all of this, and we don't have to worry about being invaded by another country, that they can do business, allow entities, other people to do business that won't cause us harm. So a business can't open up a business that says, our function is to kill mankind. Well, no, you can't do that. We need somebody to look over that. That's what we have government for. Their sole purpose is to protect our rights. And it's right here. It says that to secure these rights, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And these are the laws of nature and nature's God. And to secure our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we have that to secure these rights, we're going to institute an entity called a government, as instituted among men, dividing the just powers from the consent of the governed. In other words, these by us. So we created that little thing called the government to serve us, to protect our rights from trespass. That's it. Now, if the government, in a declaration that defines it, if the government trespasses on our rights, well then, we got to tell them to stop. If they don't stop and they continue to do it, what happens is it's called treason, all right? Now, what did we do? So in the Declaration of Independence, we defined the laws of our nation, right? And that we are it, and we the people, that's a republic. Your duty, it's defined there as well, is to defend this republic, to hold it up. That's your right and your duty. That's mine as well. I don't trespass on your rights, you don't trespass on mine, we have no conflict. There's no reason to have a conflict. And if there was a conflict, well, I don't want to get into that right now. I want to stay on point. So what we did was we created a government, a little box, a document. I'm going to skip to the two most important documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution for the United States right now. So when we look at the Constitution of the United States, it's that little box we created. We created government to do certain duties for us. Protect our borders, make sure we're not invaded, right? I mean, it happens. Even when you had Indian tribes, other Indian tribes would invade. You got to protect your borders. They would put posts out there. There would be sentries outside their tribe to alarm them if somebody was to come in and attack and take their buffalo or something, right?
What if someone wanted to cross the border and not cause harm?
Well, if you're talking about doing that, then they have the right to do so, to come in. But they have to come in, lawfully. And lawfully means full of God's law. So that means if somebody's coming in and they're sincere and they're walking forward with our beliefs here, actually the law of nature and nature's God, and we're laying this down, they have that, and they're going to uphold our values and our belief system, great, come on in. But they're coming on in and they're coming in with malintent, intent to harm, and criminal in nature, well, we might not want to let them in.
Of course.
Okay? So there has to be a way to let that happen, just like if you had an Indian tribe who's living, out in nature doing their thing. Somebody wants to come into their tribe, well, they would go through a vetting process first. Mm-hmm. Probably have to go in front of the tribal elders and, be, maybe sit in the steam room, smoke a peace pipe, and that would be their, hey, we're having peace, we're breaking bread, the same thing.
Right.
Right? So we would do those kind of things. So now, as far as this Constitution.
Was this written by the same four founding fathers?
Well, this is we'll have to get to the back of this, because it's been amended, so and some of them were not even around at this particular time. So what this was done is actually written and then approved by several other people in these states as they move forward. Okay, there was the colonies as they went forward. So I don't want to get too far off in the weeds there, because we're going to get into some history that I'm not familiar with. I had to come up to speed very quickly, and I'm really sticking to the laws as written. All right, I want to get into history. There are some guys here that I know that have been doing this for 50 years. I'm only 3 years into this.
I just wanted to know, so it's different. They were written at different periods of times by different people?
Well, 1776 is when the Declaration of Independence was written. They made this, they started that a little bit beforehand as well. But getting into this is 1787 is when this was brought forth, and that's the Constitution we want to focus on. Versus, I don't want to get too far off in the weeds here in corporation. So really, what I want to focus on right now is just kind of going over the strength and the power, so we can define this very simply. The laws that we have, and what a trespass is, and if any government entity trespasses on your rights, we have a way to correct it. And if they don't correct, then it's.
So the Declaration of the Independence is the one of declaring of the laws, and the Constitution is basically saying what happens if those are broken?
Yeah, what the Constitution actually is we create the government. It's our creation. We created it, and he who creates owns. This is a maxim of law.
So the Constitution is basically what the government should abide by. That's what they're...
Yes, and that's why they call it the supreme law of the land. It's for them. It's for the government officials. Anybody claiming to be government must obey this contract. Think of the contract. It's actually a trust, but it's a contract. They have to obey that. And if they don't obey it, it states right here what the penalties are. They are personally liable for this. Personally liable and criminally liable. It states it right in this contract. There's no getting out of it. If you're claiming to be government, and if you're not government, then you're trespassing on people's rights, and this is also a major penalty. So when we look at this...
And the government right now are claiming to uphold this Constitution when they're not?
Correct. They're claiming to be government. If you're claiming to be a government, that means that you are upholding this contract.
Okay.
Okay? So if you're claiming to be government, you are bound by this contract.
And they have to do an oath of office where they declare that?
They would not declare, it would be an oath or an affirmation, because some people, the Bible says that you don't want to take any oaths. So you would affirm. I would affirm that I'm giving you my word, my bond, that I'm going to obey this. And back in those days, when you did take an office, you actually what needs to be done is you're supposed to have a performance fidelity bond with it. What does that mean? Performance means you got to perform these duties. If you don't, then you're trespassing on the people, and the people then can go after your bond. And back then there would be bonds where...
your houses and things.
Your house, your property. And let's say I wanted to be sheriff, right? But I didn't have any property or house or whatever to put up. But everybody in the community was like, hey, Tony's a great guy, he's honest, he's upstanding, and we want to make him our sheriff, right? But he doesn't have any funds to do it. We're going to bond him. I'm going to put my house up. I'm going to put my land up. I'm going to put up my bars of silver, or whatever the case may be.
And currently now, is our local government, have they been doing these, affirming this Constitution? Have they been doing that? Or are they claiming to do it, but they're not actually doing it? It's like a fraudulent thing.
They're just claiming to be government, and they're not obeying any of this. So let's go over this, okay? So the Constitution, it says, we, the people of the United States, we created it. Okay, so we're basically, when we created this, it's, and we hire them, we're paying them, we're supposedly paying them through our taxes, right? So if you're paying somebody to do something, do they work for you?
Yeah.
Right. Now, if you're paying somebody to sweep that floor over there, right? $100, I'm going to give you $100, and he decides that he's going to take that chair and that TV and leave here with it. What did he just do? He
broke the contract.
Yeah, right. He stole from you, right? Trespass on your rights to your own property. Now, let's say now if you pay somebody to sweep that floor over there, and he comes over and he says, "Hey, Tess, go over and paint that wall." This is your home. You told him to sweep that floor. Can he tell you what to do?
No.
No, right? So why is government telling us what to do? You can't breathe, put this mask on. What? Why am I being told what to do by the people I hired? Right. Why am I driving down the road, traveling in my car, and I'm driving along, and they say, "Oh, you pull over. You can't, you didn't stop at that stop sign. Wait a minute, I'm paying you. You're speeding. You went 1 mile an hour over the so-called speed limit. Well, wait a minute, I'm paying you. Who did I harm? Rights did I trespass on?
Aren't the local people feeling that they're paying the police officers to enforce certain things? That's what I could see somebody saying as an argument to that. To keep people in line so that they aren't causing accidents and causing harm to others.
Well, you see, that all comes down to knowledge and empowering the people, which has not been done to us. We've actually been dumbed down, and now our policy enforcers are enforcing policy and not law. And the sheriffs aren't enforcing, actually a sheriff means keeper of the peace. I don't see any of our sheriffs keeping the peace out there. They're coming and taking homes and doing a lot of other things. So it really comes down to empowering the people with knowledge of what I'm going over now. When you comprehend this, then you're able to deal with the questions that you're asking, okay? But it's not until you actually know what the law is and where you stand and where your rights are. If you don't know what your rights are and where they come from, you don't have any.
No, that's very true. And I know that that's how people are getting bullied. That's how their houses are being taken away. That's how they're paying big, enormous amounts of fines, is because they don't know their rights. They don't know what they're empowering. So this is very
empowering, right? So we know we have the Declaration of Independence. We know we hold all the power because we're the ones who are endowed by our Creator, natural law and the laws of nature and nature's God. So we know we're all there, and we have all of this. We're one with the divine. We're coming forth, and we're saying, okay, here's a contract, Mr. Floor Sweeper. All I want you to do is sweep the floor. Here's the contract, stay within those bounds.
And really a policeman should only enforce someone doing harm to another. It's just, if you harm another, then there should be a consequence. But if you're not causing harm, then you should be left alone to.
Exactly, it's really that simple. If I'm trespassing, if I'm coming over here and hitting you, I'm causing you harm. If I'm stealing your property, like the guy who's sweeping the broom over there stole he's causing you harm. Right? That's an injury. He's taken something of yours. When you're driving down the street and the speed limit is 60 miles an hour and you're doing 65 and everybody else is around you fine, all of a sudden the lights come on behind you and the policeman's causing you harm. Stress harm. He's actually, as soon as he does that, he pulls you over, that's an arrest. He stopped your mode of moving forward. That's an arrest. And now when he walks up to your car and he has a gun and a taser and a bat and there's 20 cars, he can call in a whole army behind him, quite literally an army behind him. That's, you're being, it's called aggravated assault. Okay, so he's committing aggravated assault as soon as he pulls you over, period. He arrested you, he aggravated assault, I'm fine. And then you say, well, what's going on, officer? I want to see I want to see your papers. Give me your papers. Again, the Constitution holds him. Unlawful search and seizure. Give me your papers. Tell me who you are. Wait, what? Well, if you don't give me your papers, I'm going to get a warrant. I'm going to pull you out of your car and take you down to the station. Now, wait a minute. Now you're committing a battery by dragging me out of the car? Wait, hold on. See, our policy officers haven't been properly educated. All right, and that's why we're going over this now. Same thing with the sheriffs. They don't really comprehend that when they say, yeah, I took an oath, this is the contract. It would be interesting to actually ask a sheriff or a police officer or highway patrolman, how many courses have you had on the Constitution? How many courses have you had on the Declaration of Independence? Just those two documents alone. They signed up to it, and they got to comprehend that they are personally liable. All their houses, all of their assets are liable. They're up for grabs. And they can go to prison for this stuff, and it's even more serious because they are committing acts of treason. And I'm going to go over that right now. So let me get to this. So we created it created this Constitution to move forward. Now, I did want to go over a couple things here, and I'm going to show you where the real power lies of the people and our forefathers were. So our forefathers were our founding fathers and the people before us in that area, actually through the 1500s, 1600s, you know, they would fight these courts. They would go in and get repeated injury because they would file petitions and so on, paperwork into the courts, and then they would be ignored, or they would, you know, just, oh, we're not going to, you know, accept that evidence or whatever the case may be. Their houses were taken, they were thrown in jail. The same thing that's going on today. The same thing that's going on today. So these judges in our court system, they are supposed to be taking an oath to the Constitution, which binds them to this contract, and they are to what's the function of everything that I said, what's the function of the government? What is their number one duty?
To maintain peace?
To secure our rights. Maintain peace and tranquility by securing our rights. That's the number one function of any of them. Anybody claiming to be government, that's their number one function. So you don't get harmed. And what's going on here, so they have that oath to do that, right? Now, if they're in violation, a direct violation, and they've been notified, it says, hey, you know, you're trespassing on my rights here. You're not upholding your oath. You're not upholding your duties in the Constitution. And then they continue to do it anyway. They're committing what's called a usurpation of power. They're doing domestic violence on the people, insurrection, domestic violence. Domestic violence is not me against you so much. You know, if we were married or whatever, domestic violence is the violence onto the people by their servants. That's domestic violence. It's like the guy who's pushing the broom and you're the employer, and he comes over and you know, starts telling you what to do and pushing you around, pushing in the corner and saying, hey, no, I'm going to lock you in the closet. I'm going to take the stuff in your house. I'm going to go out. I'm going to have a party. I'm going to come back. You know, I'm going to, you know, hey, eat all the food, take your bank account and all of that stuff, clear it, and sell off all your property. What does that mean? Right? That's domestic violence. And that's what they're doing under the guise of law, color of law, because it's not law. So when these judges are doing things and they're not obeying this Constitution, and you notify them, and they're claiming to be government, that's treason. It's punishable by treason. Why? They're taking people's children. They're taking people's homes. So, oh yeah, I'm siding with the bank, foreclosure, take your home. Then they give a warrant and they give the authority to the, you know, to the sheriff to go out there and take their home, and it's unlawful. It's trespassed on our rights. The same thing with a sheriff or a policy officer comes over, gives us a ticket, we go to the court, and the court sides with the policy officer. The judge is supposed to be going, no, they're trespassing on your rights. You have the right to travel anywhere you want. Why? Because you paid that broom sweeper just to sweep the floor, and that's it. And we're paying them to protect our rights from trespass. That's their number one duty. Okay, so as we move forward here, we say, well, what does it mean? We say here, what is in Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, it says, treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies. And that, right out, let me keep going before I get off into that, sorry. Giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act or on confession in open court. I'm going to address that right now. So we were, I witnessed firsthand. We're in a court, and there is a woman, is a mortgage company, you know, trying to repossess his home or do a foreclosure on it, okay? And the judge is claiming he's a judge up there. And it is our right to have assistance of counsel. It's actually, I think it's Article 6 here. So in the bill, it's Article 6, where are we? article, yeah, here it is, prosecution, assistance of counsel. So it's Article 6 of the Bill of Rights. And before I run into the Bill of Rights, let's just stick on point here. So it's Article 6 of the Bill of Rights. And it says you have the right to assistance of counsel. So we walk in there, and this woman says, well, the judge says, who's this man with you? I said, well, that's my assistance of counsel. And the judge says, well, are you a bar attorney? And he says, no, I'm not a licensed bar attorney. Do I need to be a licensed bar attorney to be in this court? And the judge is like, yeah, you have to be a bar attorney. He says, well, I don't have to be a bar attorney. You're telling me that I don't have the right to be your assistance of counsel? And the judge wouldn't answer it, you see. But after 3 times he asked it, he says, well, I'll take that as a yes, a confirmation. You see, then he ordered this man, the counsel, assistance counsel, to go sit behind the bar and not participate. That's a violation of the Constitution, which he vowed to uphold. That's domestic violence on the people. That is a destruction of a republic, a rebellion. And we have a Republican form of government. We are the masters, not him. Okay, so now what has he done? He committed an act of treason in open court, and there were 19 of us there who witnessed that.
To me, it sounds like these judges don't know they don't know this article, these constitution. They don't know this very well, because how can they be in that position and not know it? That's correct. You see, in order to take that position, they have to know it, especially any of these officers that claim to be a judge or police officer. Their duty, in fact, it's in I think it's the Magna Carta. They have to, let me see if I can remember cite it exactly, and I don't have it on the tip of my tongue. Are they like presented this before they step into this position? Are they meant to know this? Oh, absolutely. They are meant to know this. Even a sheriff has to know the law before he takes that position. He has to know the Magna Carta. He has to know all of that law, that body of law, before he takes that position. If he doesn't, he's supposed to know the law. Mm-hmm. Now, they've dumbed these guys down, but these judges, they know what they're doing. Because when you call them out on it, they're asking him to be a bar attorney, a British accredited registry attorney, part of their private club. Okay, so when we look into this a little further, these judges don't have an oath, and they're a corporation, the dead speaking. So there's a lot of stuff going on in that courtroom. So right there, you can start calling out treason, okay, on these judges. So what happened in the court, that particular court case? Well, the case is still going on. However, in that courtroom, what I did witness was that act of treason. And then what happened was the judge was going to provide his ruling within 5 days, and the other bar attorney that was representing the mortgage company was trying to get a ruling that would be unchallengeable. Okay. Now, what had been done prior was we actually entered a writ of coram non judice, meaning the guy doesn't have an oath, and they're a corporation, which means that they're not upholding this contract, which means you're pretending to be a judge. And if you're pretending to be a judge, how can you possibly hold a court? You're not a judge, and you're not even abiding by our contract that you're supposed to be abiding by, right? So what that means is that you don't have the authority to make any judgment at all. There's no court being held because you're not a judge. And we call them out, tell them you're actually committing acts of treason. And to be quite honest, when that judge says, well, we're going to, what do they call it? Adjourn? Yeah, adjourn. When he did that, he got off the bench and he started walking to the door, and I looked right at him and I said, I had the back of his head, and I said, what we just witnessed is an act of treason. There are 19 of us there. And the judge stutter-stepped. He stopped for a sec, and then he walked out the door, because he knows he's committing an act of treason. There's no doubt about it. This is the same thing that was going on in 1776. Now, what they did was they brought in the bar, the British Accredited Registry, and the bar is the one that's behind this, because all those judges
were bar members or bar members now, and they have actually changed it now. There's some international number that they're giving them now because they're trying to make it a global thing, right? One world government, right? All under the bar, which is the crown and goes back to the Vatican. Okay, so this is a little bit more in depth than I wanted to get into, but this is what we're talking about, are blatant acts of treason. Even a police officer pulls you over and starts doing this stuff, and he says, well, I took the oath. Well, you're doing an act of treason, and they are personally and criminally liable for everything. They have no security. And when these courts, the reason why they can get away with everything is because they're going into the courts, and the bar, the judges are backing them up. But when you remove that, when you remove that safety net from them, they have no safety net. They would go to a trial by a jury of our peers, and they would have to answer to this stuff. Straight up. That means they're all liable for those. Well, you can't indict, you can't go before a jury by 12 of your peers unless you go under indictment, which they're protected. You can't be charged with a crime unless you have an indictment from a grand jury. Meaning there would have to be enough evidence there to say, yeah, we're going to try you for a crime, okay? So what's important about this is that when they're personally liable, you can go to a jury of your peers, like 12 people, and you would go to 12, and these would be other kings and queens, we the people, and we would present our evidence and say, well, yeah, we notified the guy and he kept on doing it, so now I'm going to charge him, $250,000 for keeping me in jail overnight. That's your life that's gone. And what happened to your kids during that time? No, where were they? Were they being fed? Who was taking care of your children if you were the only one that did that? Maybe you charge them, $1 million a day, $2 million for that time that you're in jail. Okay? This is really, it's your life. You're not going to get that time back. Somebody needs to be, billed for that. And when you look at the Bill of Rights, why do you think they called it the Bill of Rights?
Because it's a paper with our rights on it. I don't know.
Well, my turn to get you. I like it. Think about this very simple concept, the Bill of Rights. You trespass on my rights, on these rights, I am going to present you with a bill. You lock me up overnight in jail for no reason because I didn't harm anybody. Well, my friend, that's going to cost you $2 million. That's my bill. And I can set that bill whatever I want. Why? Because we're a republic. I'm the king. I hold my own court, and I bring that forth. And you did not uphold your part. You're personally and criminally liable. Okay? So this is really where our power lies at. And I just wanted to bring that to our attention, so that we know and we comprehend really what's going on here is very, very simple. We are of the divine. Laws of nature, and nature's God. And we hired somebody to protect our back, watch our back from invasion, and make sure somebody doesn't come across the border and come in and start raping and pillaging the villagers, us. So we paid somebody to watch our back. And now they're not watching our back, they're actually turning on us. So that's an act of treason.
So what do if say I'm driving my car and I get pulled over by a policeman, what is something that I can say that will help me to be in my rights and to not be bullied by this man?
Well, that's a very good question. My recommendation is be very polite to the police officer or sheriff, whoever pulled you over. Say, oh, thank you very much, and sign whatever contract they're going to give you to sign. You'd never argue with a man with guns and a whole lot of guns and a whole lot of, I don't recommend that whatsoever. You got to remember, a lot of these police officers and sheriffs, they have been trained incorrectly. They haven't been taught the law that we're talking about. And the last thing you want to do is take on a guy who has a gun and been taught that he's in the right and he's protected, because no matter what, he goes to the court and he's protected and he can drag you out and do whatever he wants. That's what they've been taught. It's not true. The last thing I'm going to do is take on one of the officers who's get out of your car and say, hey, okay, great, get me out of the car. I actually got arrested once, and I was trying to tell this guy, no, I'm like, do you have a warrant for my arrest, a lawful warrant? They didn't have one. Said, I'll show you a lawful warrant. And they reached in the car and they started trying to drag me out of the car. I had to open the door and had the safety belt on. I said, dude, I need to take the safety belt off. He said, you're resistant. I said, no, I'm not resistant. I got the safety belt on. Let me undo that, right? Drags me out of the car. They threw me down on the ground, jumped on my back. Look, I know how to fight. I grew up in the street and I trained fighting. Okay? First thing I'm going to tell you, even a trained man knowing how to fight and all this, I got 5 of those guys. They all have guns and batons and tasers. I'm not going to fight anybody. I'm not an idiot. I said, fine, do whatever you want. Take me to jail. I said, take me to the magistrate. They're supposed to be taking you to a magistrate. It's due process. So that you sit there and you'd be able to see an affidavit or, who's accusing me of a crime. They didn't do that. They just tossed me in the jail.
So you, at that point, you wouldn't fight the police officer, but you would actually get the right wording of your constitution and your rights and present that in court. Is that what you would do?
Yeah, I would bring that forth in the form of what's called a writ, because we move by writs. We're the king, and that comes into the common law, which comes under the laws of nature, and nature's God. When you start looking under that, there's maxims of law, and writs, and we're holding our own court. We should be moving by writs, okay? And that's really where our power is, and they've not informed it of this. So I don't want to get up too far into that, but this is something that I've done, and they've been ignoring everything I've been putting through the court. They've been doing everything unlawfully. I've notified them. I've said, look, your duty is to uphold and protect my rights, and I listed the Constitution, and they continue to do whatever they're doing anyway. I gave them a writ of abatement. A writ of abatement means, stop doing what you're doing. Abate this because there was no injured party. You got to uphold, my rights. You're supposed to protect my rights, and they're not. They're moving forward. So what are they doing? They're committing acts of treason. Period. This is where we start to inform. All my documentation and what we're doing here in Nevada County and showing people is this, and we start sending this to the JAG. If they're not, right now we're under military occupation. We are under enemy occupation in this country, probably all over the world, but we're under enemy occupation in this country. And what happens is we don't have the enforcement. I go to the sheriff. He's being, instructed, or they who are being instructed by the courts, told what to do. Oh, everything's okay, by the bar attorneys. They go, first thing you go, well, is this okay, counsel? And the counsel is a bar attorney, a British. That's who we fought in the Revolution. British Accredited Registry, the Crown. These are the people that were fought in the Revolution. Our founding fathers fought in the Revolution. So we're fighting them again. Same thing. And they're getting their power through these so-called courts. And our form of government, a Republican form of government with the Constitution, the judicial branch actually has the least amount of power in our form of government. The least. And they brainwashed us. They taught us to get an attorney and go into the courts because they have control over the courts and they can do whatever they want in there.
So how do you see we the people taking our power back? If the military are having the guns and the intimidation tools, people are scared to stand up. You're scared about the police. You go into the court. They're all, enforcing the same system. How do we the people take that power back?
That's a really great question. I'm so glad you asked that. The first thing is, right back at the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about, life, right? And the freedoms and joy in being with one, right? And we want to be able to bring that forward. So first thing you have to do is give them the knowledge. And that's what we were doing right now, saying, hey, you got to shine a light on the darkness. So this is a living soul, and we're going to shine a light on the darkness. See, the darkness can't live in the light, right? So you got to shine a light on it. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to empower the people with this knowledge. Very simple, very simple. You're seeing acts of treason all the time. You've got to be able to see it. The way you're going to see it is know the Declaration of Independence in this Constitution, then you can see it. Now what you can do is you can empower you with the pen. The first thing you do is you write a notice. You send a notice. You say, hey, look, the notice says, here's the law, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. You're breaking the law. If you continue to break the law, you are personally and criminally liable. And these are acts of treason. And you say, stop all of your actions right now. And if they don't, they can't claim they didn't know. When you present them a notice, I say, Tess, or the sweeper, floor sweeper comes over and says, Tess, go over there and paint my wall and paint your wall, and I'm going to take your TV. Well, first thing you got to do is give them notice. You say, stop. I didn't give you the authority to do that. Mr. Floor Sweeper, you're supposed to sweep the floor. That's it, period. I didn't give you the authority to take that TV, go out of here. I didn't tell you to tell me to do something. No, I only gave you the authority to do that, so you got to put them on notice. You say, the contract says you sweep the floor, and that's it, nothing else. If you continue to go and do these things, take my TV and continue to tell me what to do, go over there, paint the wall, and go stand in a corner or whatever, well, then you broke the contract. And in the contract, it says, you owe me for every violation, every breach of that contract. And in our Constitution is that contract. So now they are going to owe me whatever I put down as a trespass and the fee for that trespass.
Well, so say here what happened in our local county, you guys served the Board of Supervisors, our local government, you told them that they're committing acts of treason, and you told them to resign, and they haven't resigned, right? So how is this going to be enforced if they're owing you this money and they're not listening, and the people that have the guns are part of the same system that they're part of? How is this? Where do we go from here?
Again, this is it's getting into shining the light. This is where we need millions of people with the power of the pen bringing this forth. One off, they can ignore us. One off, they can ignore us. We'll just ignore them, or maybe we'll just drum up some false charge and put them in jail, shut them up. Whatever, send code enforcement out after them so we can take their property, whatever. They have a lot of tools at their disposal. So how do we do it? It's gonna take millions. We get 100 million people across this nation that know this, are empowered with this knowledge, and then we get them what they can do with the pen and start sending what's called paper arrows, and we get that and we start noticing them, they're gonna have to do something. So that's step one, is shining a light on it. Step two is saying, okay, now we're going to provide this notice and this information to the JAG and the Commander-in-Chief. In Article 4, Section 4, we are guaranteed a Republican form of government. And we don't have one because they're not listening to us. We are the power in this country, not the floor sweeper. I'm the employer, I'm the employee, you're, right? Excuse me, I'm the employer, you're the employee, you do as I say or you're fired.
So basically what you're saying is what it's going to take is for us to unite as a people. We need to unite as we the people and not be fragmented, because I feel like the divide and conquer is what's happening. You're either Democrat or you're Republican or you're this or you're that. There's all this division that's going on within people, and we're not actually being in solidarity with each other. And I actually interviewed a man, a very powerful man from Guatemala, and the Mayan people have actually been able to overthrow 3 of their last presidents. And the reason that they've been able to do this is because they're standing in solidarity with each other. And I asked him, how did that happen? How were they able to look past their differences? And he said, because they have been in prayer. They're always in prayer circles. They're around the fire. They're praying together. They all have the same God. They all want the same things. And so they were able to do that. And I would really hope to see the American people do that same thing, because this kind of feels like a stage of some sort with the world. And what happens here has that sort of domino effect. So really, if I would like a message to go out to the people watching this, it's to put the differences aside that have been imposed upon us and know that we're all human beings wanting the same thing. We all want our home. We all want to not be trespassed against. We all want our rights protected. We all want food, air, water, shelter, family. We want to practice our faith and be in peace. And if we can remember that that is the basis, then we can unite and not think about all those other things that's trying to divide us, and be in true solidarity. And if we can unite in solidarity, then they have no power over us, right?
Exactly. And it's all laid out right here, in writing for us and empowered us too. So somebody says, well, that's all hogwash. It's not. This is what the founders put in play for us to be able to bring forward. So exactly what you just said. Nicely put, because when we do, and that's why they, try to hate God out of everything and not allow us to assemble, and they want to take the Bible out of everything, and destroy that, because that's the foundation of everything moving forward. So absolutely well put. So thank you very much. I'm going to end with that. I think that's a good closing one. I think you got it. You topped me on that one.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Tony. I do believe knowledge is power, and we need to educate people. It's the first step. So this is really the intention of what we're doing here. Oh yeah,
by the way, you can go to livinglawsociety.org and the People's Operation Restoration.com. We're providing a lot of information at both of these sites to be able to empower you. Our site is on its way up. We had to revamp it, so we're going to actually have some notices that will be there for you as well, to be able to empower you, whether it's a board of supervisor or whether some of the other things that were coming up as far as the courts and the bar as well. So we are providing some education, giving you some educational tools, and then we'll empower you with ways to be able to do these notices. So
amazing, and this is a growing movement. Yeah. So I hope people will leave feeling inspired, empowered, join this movement of us, we the people, taking the power back, and let's make a difference.
Thank you so much, Tess.
Thanks, Tony.
Good night. Bye, everybody.